speaking on a nationwide tour of shipyards and factories dubbed Arsenal of Freedom, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had this to say about the Venezuela attack. Watch.
We're reestablishing deterrence that's so absolute and so unquestioned that our enemies will not dare to test us. The world started wondering whether America really was strong and whether America really could lead. Well, that's over now.
And here's footage of a crowd chanting the Persian phrase, "What a futile delusion," which was Elon Musk's reply to Khamenei's ex-post saying, "We will never give in to the enemy." Now, back in September 2025, Reuters broke a story citing a classified International Atomic Energy Agency report which found that Iran had enriched more than 440 kilograms of uranium as of June 13th. That is enough, if enriched further, the report said, for 10 nuclear bombs, according to an IAEA yardstick. Trump had authorized strikes on 3 nuclear sites in Iran on June 22nd in an attempt to wipe out Iran's capability. They followed Israel's strikes on June 13th. Now, when it comes to Iran's military, a report last March by the US Director of National Intelligence warned Iran has fielded a large quantity of ballistic and cruise missiles, as well as UAVs that can strike throughout the region, and continues efforts to improve their accuracy, lethality and reliability. Iran's defense industry has a robust development and manufacturing capacity, especially for low-cost weapons such as small UAVs. The same report mentioned Iran has also deployed small boats and submarines capable of disrupting shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. However, its ground and air forces, while among the largest in the region, suffer from outdated equipment and limited training. Meanwhile, a US congressional report from June also warned of Iran's short and medium-range ballistic missiles, including the Shahab-3 family of liquid-fueled ballistic missiles with an estimated range of 2,000 kilometers, far enough to strike Europe, but not the US. Michael, let me ask you, so given all Iran's capabilities, what would be the security-related aim of the US if it did want to remove Khamenei?
Well, I think if the US ever targeted Khamenei, it wouldn't be just symbolic. It would be to create a huge system shock. And it would be about paralyzing decision-making at the top. So, the clerk system, the whole clerk politician governing system that, would be dismantled and potentially leading way for a new, not anti-American government to take shape, as it seems to be the way in Venezuela, or it seems to be the US plan anyways, trying to install a new government that is not as hostile, right? But of course, how that takes place is another question. There are a lot of differences between the capabilities of Iran, the situation of Iran and Venezuela, which would make, you can't just copy and paste the same method and action that you did in Venezuela. So that kind of element is out there. So it'll be a risky operation.
So I want to drill down into those security considerations, Tong Lun. Let's get straight to a Taiwan contingency. What is Iran's main value to China?
I think the one have just been mentioned. The energy supply is the most important value. And the second thing is, for a strategic value for Russia and China is different from Venezuela. Venezuela is situated in the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine had been there for over 2 centuries now. So what Russia and China have been hoping is that the Trump administration will exercise strategic retractions instead of just like Secretary Hegseth have said, we're going to reestablishing our deterrence. That's a very different logic. If Russia and China are expecting a kind of respect for mutual sphere of influence, then they will expect the United States will not attack a place so close with Russia and China and so valuable for Russia and China.
And so, Eric, what does that mean then? Do they expect that the Middle East, somewhere that's quite close to Russia, would be left alone by the US?
but I don't think there will be, the regime change or, try to eradicate, the whole, Iranian regime, because that will be difficult. And especially for Trump, he has that kind of a transactional personality, so he is not going to let the U.S., on the ground in Iran. So probably he will do the, strategic strike from air, or pave the way for the rival to, remove the regime, but he is probably not going to there,
Okay. And Michael, going back to the Taiwan contingency, we spoke about oil. Is that just the supply of oil, Iranian oil, to China during a possible war? Or is it also to do with the Strait of Hormuz in terms of the shipping through the strait?
Well, of course, shipping is a key factor in this. But I think another part that is important about how China, Russia, and Iran can together threaten the U.S. in a conflict is that, they're not working on a joint war plan, but together they're stretching American power across regions. And I think that's a key point. China is the main actor in the Taiwan Strait. It understands that the U.S. fights with allies, Japan, Australia, Philippines, but it also understands that U.S. power and resources are limited, right? So China's testing whether the U.S. and its allies can manage multiple scenarios at the same time. Iran's role is important in this because the more conflict it creates there, the more distracted U.S. is, and the more resources the U.S. has to pull into the region. And Russia plays the same role, right? That's why China wants the war in Ukraine to continue on, so that resources can be distracted.
Yeah.
So I think that's how these three powers can play together to challenge the U.S. in a potential Taiwan conflict.
Okay. Tongnon, Michael had mentioned a little bit earlier that, a Venezuelan attack is different to an Iranian one.
Right.
How capable would Iran be in terms of defending itself from any such attack?
I don't think Iran can really defend itself, judging from the attack we saw last year. That there's no early warning. There's no
the strikes on the nuclear.
The strike on nuclear site, right? That should be their jewel on the crown, but they cannot defend themselves. So, but there's another thing I think Trump should consider. Iran is about twice the size of Venezuela, and they have 3 times the population more than Venezuela. So how do you going to force the Iranian government having your own way? We see that in Venezuela, instead of asking the Nobel laureate, the opposition leader, Machado, to become the new leader, they are inviting the vice president as the acting president. And that maintained the whole structure of Venezuela, military intelligence intact. So why do Americans want that? Because the major purpose is, I will have to say, is for the oil. They have to keep the oil pumping out regularly. They don't want to have a regime change in Venezuela. So we'll have to see whether that their objective would change over time. But so far, what we are seeing is that Trump is only want to use a limited measures to have the maximum outcome.
Okay, and Eric, how much can it depend or expect from its allies, its partners, Russia and China? Given that Iran probably, you would think, thinks that it has provided a lot of support to both of them. Russia, ammunition, drones, suicide drones, diplomatic support for the Ukraine war. To China, heavily discounted oil, apparently savings of $7 billion a year. What do you expect China and Russia will do?
Well, I consider China and Russia, they probably will try to help, providing, more advanced weaponry.
What form of weaponry do you think?
Well, anti-missile and, the early, the most advanced, radar system, try to detect, the attack from, United States. The other alternative will be much worse to Beijing if, the current regime will remove and replaced with the more pro-US Western regime, there will be total loss for the Beijing.
So because of that, though, would you not expect them to do China to try to do more? That it wants to keep Khamenei in place?
Yeah, I think they will try to do that.
Michael, your reaction to that?
Well, I think Iran will be expecting more from Russia and China, and they will try to offer
You think that they
more.
were disappointed after the nuclear strikes?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think that Russia and China are limited in what they are able to offer, right?
So not the weapon systems that Eric mentioned?
They could try to offer more weapon systems, but also, like, we're not sure how effective they will be. Look at Venezuela. That was kind of a no confidence vote on Chinese systems and Russian systems. China will offer more support, economic support, oil purchases because it benefits them. Maybe some financial channels and diplomatic cover, but they won't be offering military intervention, that's for sure. I mean, neither is Russia. Russia is too bogged down with Ukraine. China is quite some distance away from Iran. And also, like, they know that their capabilities are limited. Look at Venezuela. When the thing happened, China issued and Xi Jinping issued a statement condemning the U.S. for violating international law, a very hypocritical statement. But no threats, no promises to do anything if the U.S. did not return the Maduro couple. And the foreign ministry spokesperson was asked about it and couldn't come with a cohesive answer. So I think it'll be the same logic with Iran. They are limited in their options and what they can offer. That's my opinion.